So we saw in mantra 1, the principle introduced to us was everything is owned and controlled by the Lord. Isha avasyam, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything that you experience and witness in this world is owned and controlled by the Lord. Therefore, we should not claim false proprietorship over anything because nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to Ishvara. And we should just accept our quota. And what is our quota? The resources that we have and the duties that we have. Hmm. So we saw the example of Arjun that he did not want to act in the spirit of Ishavasya. He wanted to ignore the desire of the Lord and live independently. So he was refusing to play his role and therefore he was rejecting his quota. So disregarding the Ishavasya principle leads to a disharmony in society and a degradation of the self. So we have to always remember that it's the best interest is to align with the laws of nature, which are according to the will of the Lord. So that was the Ishavasya principle. Now, mantras 2 and 3 present that if you align with the Ishavasya principle, you can live in this world and then liberate yourself also from this world. Whereas mantra 3 will tell us that if we don't act according to the Ishavasya principle, we will degrade ourselves. So let us look at mantra 2. कुर्वन् एवेह कर्माणि जुजीविषं चात्म समाः एवं त्वयि नान्यथ्यो sti na karma lipyate nara. So what is said here is one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. In what way? According to the principle introduced in the first mantra. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. So here we see the idea that's being introduced is if you adopt the Ishavasya principle, you can continue to live and act in this world without any fear of bondage. So what is bondage? So Srila Prabhupada starts by saying that the nature of the soul is to be free. Nobody wants to die. Everyone just wants to extend. So this tendency is visible individually and collectively in this world. So the Vedas say that the living being, is eternal by nature, and therefore bondage is unnatural for us. Yeah, we are a free spirit, but in this body we are engaged, and we have to keep taking births from just changing bodies. But that's just going from one sort of engagement to another. That is karma bandhan or transmigration of the soul. So one has to work because that's the law of the material nature that now that we are here in this world, we have to perform some karma. Yeah. Can we do nothing? Shri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that inaction is impossible. And if you try to do it artificially, it's unsustainable. And if you try to do it before time, it is hypocritical. So action we have to do, but what is the right way to do it? That is what we have to understand. If one does not act according to his prescribed duties, then one transgresses the laws of nature and binds themselves more to the cycle of birth and death. Yeah. And when we attain a human form of life, This is the only opportunity we have to free ourselves of this bondage, of this chains of karma. So here, Srila Prabhupada introduces karma, vikarma, and akarma. So, according to the Bhagavad Gita, let's look at this. Let me just share the screen with you. So, karma means what is prescribed in the Vedas. What are our prescribed duties? So that can take us to that can lead us to elevation. Hmm. Vikarma is what is not prescribed by the Vedas. You remember what we discussed the definition of sin to be the willful disobedience of the laws of nature. So, what is not prescribed, that is called vikarma or sinful independent action. But the problem with both karma and akarma is both of them give results. Good results or bad results, the nature of results is that we have to come back in this material existence, take another body to experience the fruits of our actions, the results of our actions. Yeah, that's karma phala. So that perpetuates our material existence. What we really should be doing is akarma, or in the language of the Bhagavad Gita, it is called buddhi yoga. What is buddhi yoga or akarma? You act according to the will of the Lord and for the satisfaction of the Lord. That's it. Whatever you're doing it on behalf of Krishna. And because Krishna has no karma, therefore you don't get any karma. That principle of akarma is God-centered action or Ishavasya principle. That will lead us to liberation. So that is the only way out of this material existence. Both karma and vikarma are still going to keep us in this world. So intelligent men prefer complete freedom, which is akarma. Yeah. If one just wants to do some good work or pious work, if they want recognition or a higher recognition in this world or a higher status, so you can do punya, but that is not going to give any spiritual benefit. People in this world may praise you, but those who are more advanced, they actually want to do a karma. Yeah, which is they want to be free from all kinds of actions and reactions of work. Why? Because whether it is good work or bad work, both are keeping you bound to some side. Yeah. Intelligent men know well that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. So whether it is Shubh or Ashubh, both the nature of these work is binding. So an intelligent person wants to go beyond Shubh or Ashubh. They want to rise to the level of Shuddha, Vishuddha Sattva, transcendental platform, or the activities of bhakti, activities for Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. Okay, so you're able to appreciate this. And we are not interested in good or bad work. We want to do Krishna's work. That is the only way we can experience freedom. So then further, Srila Prabhupada continues, because our karma will free us from the reactions. So basically, what we want is no reaction. We want to do non-reactionary work. So this is the spirit of Ishavasya principle. And Srila Prabhupada refers to the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Essentially, Ishopanishad and Gitopanishad are giving us the same message. Don't work with selfish desire. Work for one with awareness of Krishna's presence and control, and work for the pleasure of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says, From chapter 3, verses 9 to 16, they talk about the Yagya Chakra. Hmm. How should you act in this world? We've already discussed and ruled out the possibility of inaction. Now, we cannot be inactive. That's not our nature. The soul is always active. Even to keep the body and soul together, we have to do some action to maintain our livelihood. So that is necessary. So if we have to act, how should we act? That is the main question. So Sri Krishna beautifully recommends in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 9. Yagyartha karma nonyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Yagyartha karmano. How should your karma be? In the spirit of sacrifice. What is sacrifice? You do it as an offering to Vishnu. Yagya is Vishnu only. Yagya vahi Vishnu. So when I work for the satisfaction of Krishna and I offer my work to Krishna, that is the right way to work. Otherwise, work causes bondage in the material world. Anyatra loko yam karma bandhana. So we have two options. Do we want to do work which will bind us, or do we want to do work which will liberate us? Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. Tad artham. This is a key phrase. Ishavasyam or tad artham. Therefore, for his sake, for his satisfaction, you perform your prescribed duties. Tad artham karma kaunteya. So if we have to act in this way, world, what is the best way to act? Tad artham karma. Perform our karma for Krishna. Mukta Sangha Samachara. And in this way, you will always remain free from bondage. And then the verses ahead talk of the reciprocation between humans and the devatas. And by sacrifice, we have seen in the previous mantra also that according to the level of consciousness of the performer, Ishavasya could mean following the Karma Kanda principle, or Ishavasya could mean directly serving Krishna. So here, Shri Krishna is saying that is the Yagya Chakra. Annat bhavanti bhutani, karma bhavam vidhi. Very beautiful verses. You can study it and understand this theme of acting in the spirit of sacrifice. Evam pravartitam chakram. This is the cycle of sacrifice, Arjun, and this is how you should act. So one cannot attain the state of Naishkarmya or Akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. So don't think that. So what is the problem that we are defining? That whatever karma we do, we will lead to reaction. So you might think, okay, let me do no karma, and therefore there will be no action. That is not how it works. In Naishkarmya, nobody can attain the stage of Naishkarmya or Akarma. They're different synonyms for the same work. Yagyartha karma, Akarma, Naishkarmya, same thing. Basically means that work which liberates you. You cannot attain that state without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literatures. So basically, what are Vedas trying to do? They are trying to regulate our working energy. As humans, we have energy to work. How should it be utilized? That is what the Vedas are regulating. So this is the broad purpose of the Vedas, to regulate our human energy in such a way that we grow in realization and we are able to realize God. That is how we should live and act in this world. And once we realize the authority of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is to be understood that one has attained positive knowledge. Okay, so act in such a way that you attain God realization. That is when your work is successful. In that purified state, which is Vishuddha Sattva, the three gunas cannot touch you. That is what is Naishkarmya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. Okay, is this clear? So therefore, what should we do? We have discussed previously that acting in the spirit of Ishavasya means acknowledging everything belongs to Krishna and obeying the laws of nature and aligning our will to the divine will. So basically, act according to the Ishavasya principle, and then you will not be bound to samsara. So, what is the problem with both karma and vikarma? Both are selfish. One tries to do karma according to the prescribed, rules and regulations of scripture, but it is still driven by a selfish desire. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami. There is some kamana. And vikarma is you are acting whimsically. It is again according to your, you know, selfish desire. So both, all these types of action are caused by selfish motive. And therefore, any selfish action will keep you bound to karma bandha. But when you act for the pleasure of Krishna, according to Krishna's order and for his pleasure, that kind of work does not produce any results. It is non-reactionary work. So if we want to free ourselves from the reaction of our work, what should we do? Stop acting? No. We should act for the pleasure of Krishna. So action is not bad. Karma is not the villain. The consciousness of the performer is the problem. Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord tells Arjun in chapter 8, Mam anusmara yuyuddha cha. So always remember me. See, that is the primary quality or the primary duty, bhakti, the direct limbs of bhakti, the Navvida bhakti or the 64 limbs of bhakti presented by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And he in fact says there are unlimited limbs, but they are the most prominent. So doing direct bhakti activities is what Sri Krishna is recommending. You should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. So we perform our duties, but we have no faith in those duties. It is not that I find the purpose of my life in those karma, in those varnashram duties, like of fighting. Arjuna is not fighting because he thinks fighting will give meaning to my existence. He is interested in remembering and pleasing Krishna. If Krishna is telling him to fight, he's fighting. If Krishna tells him to, do something else, he will do something else. So we don't create a designation. Any designation is of the body and mind. Naham vipro na cha narapati napi vaishyo na shudro. Naham varni na cha grihapati no nasto yatirva kintu prodhyan nikila parmananda purnamrita phir gopi bhartur pad kamalayor das dasanodas. So our primary identity should be I'm Krishna Das. Krishna tells me to fight, I'll fight. If Krishna tells me to beg, I'll beg. If Krishna tells me to act like a Vaishya, I'll do as a Vaishya. That is external. So with your activities dedicated to me, with your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. This is Bhagavad Gita 8.7. So that is the kind of, karma which is recommended for us to do. Sri Krishna calls it Buddhi Yoga. That what is the myth in society that action will lead to bondage and inaction will lead to liberation. So therefore, a lot of people just go into seclusion. But that is not true. Shri Krishna says your senses might be inactive, but your mind is still meditating on the sense objects. then that is hypocrisy. So you cannot become inert or inactive. That is not going to help us. Becoming passive will not break the chains of karma. That is also what Arjun thought. He thought, I'll not fight, I'll just beg. And therefore, I'll avoid all the reactions. It doesn't work like that. So, everyone should perform their action, but the difference is we should connect it to Krishna, offer it to Krishna. And primarily, Mam Anusmara, and secondarily, Yuyudhacha. So Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita again, in chapter 5, verse 6, let's look at this. Sannyasyastu mahabaho dukkam aptum ayogataha yoga yukta manirbrahma nachirenadi gacchati. So ayogataha, that is the key word which we are looking at. Ayogata means not engaging. So don't think just by renouncing all activities cannot make you happy. But a thoughtful person is that who is engaged in devotional service and they can achieve the supreme without delay. So, this is a direct instruction by the Lord. Don't artificially renounce. What you do is you add Krishna to your life, you direct your karma to Krishna. So, when Arjun was fearing that if he fights, he'll incur sin, Krishna is saying that Arjun, you will incur sin if you don't fight. Why? Because you are going against your dharma. So this is what we have to understand that inert inactivity, that is not an option. We have to act, and the best way to act is in alignment with Krishna's will, in alignment with the laws of nature. Then you will never incur sin. Na karma lipyate nara. That is what this verse is also saying. If you act in the spirit of Ishavasya, then sin will not touch you. No karma bandhan will affect you. So here Srila Prabhupada further continues that therefore, see, that's what we are discussing. Primarily, one has to do the activities of bhakti. So here Srila Prabhupada says, factually, no one has to do anything more, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. But what happens when we are new, when we are coming from a place of karma, it is not easy to completely stop fruitive work because we have been attached to work and the fruits of the work for a very long time. Yeah. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for sense gratification, for one's own selfish interest, either immediate for the self or extended for society through different isms like altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, humanitarianism. So both are selfish only. One is concentrated, you're selfish only about yourself, and one is extended. You're selfish not about yourself, but about your country, your nation, or any way which you identify using a bodily designation. So all of these are very attractive forms of karma bandhan only. Just like we saw that those who are intelligent say we don't want to get caught in this karma or vikarma. We want to rise to a karma. Similarly, these extended activities are also karma bandhan. So, is there any value to them? Yes. But the Vedic instruction of Sri Ishopanishad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above isms, if you actually want to do any ism like humanitarianism, altruism, he should make them God centered. Add Ishavasya principle to it. Then there is no harm in doing any of those, provided that one executes his activities in relation with the Ishavasya conception, the God-centered conception. So brilliant and so clear. So here we are convinced how we should act, not karma vikarma, but akarma, not even extended selfish uh, enjoyment, but completely aligning to Ishavasya. So now, if we act for Krishna, you might say, okay, first of all, you said don't act selfishly. Then I thought it's better not to act only. Why put in the effort? I'll just sleep, I'll relax. No, that's not possible. You will get sin for that because you are not following your allotted quota. Tena tyaktena. You have been given a certain responsibility and you have to fulfill that, as simple as that. Just do it in a spirit of Krishna consciousness. Now, the nature of akarma or ishavasya, acting in the spirit of ishavasya, is that they are considered spiritual activities. As soon as you offer your or you work for Krishna, it becomes bhakti. Yeah, so here Srila Prabhupada says the nature of these actions is very different. नेहा विक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायु न विद्यते स्वल्पम अपि हि स्वल्पमपि अस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयः. So even if one performs this and is not able to complete it, does it imperfectly or incompletely, still there is no loss. Because the nature of these activities is that it is spiritual. That is the power. So we have to understand that if we want to go beyond bondage, we have to act according to Ishavasya principle. And don't worry, even if you are able to apply the Ishavasya principle imperfectly, still you will get an eternal benefit. Yeah, which this verse which we are talking about. Even a little endeavor on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. What is that dangerous type of fear? That we glide down into lower species of life. Yeah. So we should not miss this human form of life. This is the opportunity where we can go beyond the bondage of karma. If due to our foolishness, we cannot see that, mm, we will be degrading ourselves into lower species of life. So what is Sri Ishopanishad advising us? That exert your energy or act in the spirit of Ishavasya. And if you are so engaged, then you can wish to live for many, many years because there is no bondage. Yeah. Then Srila Prabhupada, refers to these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Do the trees not live a long life? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? So long life has no value. What is the quality of your life? What is the consciousness of your action? That is what brings in life. So if you are acting in the right consciousness, then you can live for as long as you like. There will be no bondage. And then Prabhupada concludes it in a brilliant insight. A humble, God-centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. So rather than making a show out of vanity that you are a, very noble person serving society, it's better to be a humble, God-centered person. So both Bhagavad Gita or Gita Upanishad and Ishopanishad are saying that there is no alternative to this format, which is what Mantra 2 is saying. And we also saw Bhagavad Gita where Shri Krishna says, work in the spirit of sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, it will cause bondage. So basically, here what is recommended is that Ishavasya principle means you act according to Varnashram. You do your duties and do it for the pleasure of Krishna. So there we've discussed this that Varnashram is required to purify our consciousness. We might start out with selfish desires, but if we say, okay, I'll not be wild, I'll follow some regulation. Let me follow scriptures which allow, because see, the nature is that we have this body and senses, and they demand a certain amount of sukha. So the scriptures say, okay, you can have that sukha, but have it in a dharmic way. So they give us a boundary condition, they give us a guardrail. Don't go beyond this, otherwise it will be dangerous, it will degrade you. So there are, all of this allows us to live and also have dharmic enjoyment. So you start from a point of selfishness, you follow Varnashram, that reduces your selfishness. Now you know how to restrain yourself. And the idea of Varnashram is to bring you to Sattva Gun. That yes, I am doing it without attachment. I'm doing it without greed for the fruits. I'm not considering myself the doer and therefore also not the enjoyer. I'm doing it as an offering to Krishna. So in this way, Varnashram purifies you. When you add Ishavasya principle, ordinary karma becomes karma yoga. But it doesn't stop there. What we discussed is, yes, for stage one, this is the way to offer your work. If we are too attached to work and we cannot give it up immediately, then we start by offering our work to Krishna. But does offering your work to Krishna, does Varnashram duty, do they create love for Krishna? They don't. They can maximum bring us to Sattva Gun. And there, if you are fortunate, you'll receive the mercy of devotees and you will have a seed of devotion. And when you start doing Shravan Kirtanam, Smaranam, that will give you prema. Okay? So Srila Prabhupada is saying when these altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad, so originally they were sense gratification only, although they were extended. But when you do it in the spirit of Ishavasya, they become a form of Karma Yoga. And these activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 5 to 9. These are verses where the Lord is saying that Yajna, Dan, and Tapa should never be stopped. Even for those who have purified themselves, they should continue performing Yajna, Dan, and Tapa. Yeah. Pavanani Manishina. And how should you perform these activities, Yajna, Dan, and Tapa? Without attachment or expectation for result. You should perform it as a matter of duty. Kartavyaniti. Kartavya iti. This is my kartavya, therefore I'm doing. Do you want the fruits of it? No, that's not what I'm doing it for. If they come, that's okay, but that's not my motivation. I'm doing it not at the level of reward, I'm doing it at the level of duty. Kartavya. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one renounces prescribed duties out of illusion, that is called renunciation or sannyas in the mode of ignorance, tamoguna. And then that will lead to dukha. Oh, sorry, if somebody gives up their swadharma because it is too difficult, dukham iti eva yat karma, kaya klesha bhaya tyaje. That, oh, this is like Arjuna was thinking, this is too troublesome, it's too complicated, let me give it up. No, that renunciation is said to be in the mode of passion. That doesn't lead to elevation. So you perform your duty only because it ought to be done. That's the spirit. So, see the beautifully aligned the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and Sri Upanishad, which Srila Prabhupada is highlighting in his purport. And finally, if we act in this way, we'll save ourselves from gliding into the lower species. Even though such God centered activities may be half finished, even if they are imperfect, even if they are incomplete, it's okay, but because they are activities of a different nature, of a different category only. Yeah. They go into our eternal spiritual account. It will save us from getting any lower species. So basically, we start aligning our will with the divine will. Even if we do it imperfectly, even if we are able to, not complete it, we are assured of a next life where we start that journey, start and continue that journey. So then every life becomes a progressive step towards God realization. That is the beauty of spiritual life. Once you start, then every next life takes you closer and closer to Krishna. Ayu Harati Vaipumsa. So, how to execute these, what are the specific details is mentioned is elaborately explained in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, which Srila Prabhupada is saying we have rendered into English as the Nectar of Devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all those who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Upanishad. So now you are convinced that that's how you should act, but how to do it, that is taught in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay. Any questions? Very simple, straightforward in that sense. And if we don't act according to this, then we are creating a very dangerous situation for us, which is explained in Mantra 3. Asurya nama te loka andhena tamasa vritaha tamaste pretya vigachanti ye ke chatma hano janaha. Very beautiful mantra. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So if we don't act according to the Ishavasya way, this is the other option, this is the other alternative. So Prabhupada starts by saying that human life, why are there so many facilities in human life? We have a high level of intelligence. We can domesticate other species because they don't have that level of awareness and intelligence. So why do we have these advantages or facilities? Because there are higher responsibilities. And those who acknowledge, who are aware of those responsibilities and work in that spirit are called suras. And those who are neglectful of those responsibilities are called asuras. So the entire world can be categorized into these two types of people, which is beautifully expressed in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. If you study, uh, there's some few verses we can look at for what is being said. Those who are asuras, they will not accept God. They'll say, we accept Ishavasya means we say God is the creator, controller, and we should obey his laws and surrender unto him. The asuras will say, no. Asatyam apratishtam te jagat ahuranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kamahaitukam. So the asuras say, oh, there is no God. The world is unreal. There is no foundation, no God in control. Exactly opposite of Ishavasya. Jagat ahur anishwaram. We are saying Ishavasya, Vasyamidam Sarvam. The Asura is saying Jagat Ahur Anishwaram. So it's the exact opposite. So then what is the purpose? Nothing, sense gratification. But it's not like that. The laws of nature will punish you. And the mantra 3, what it is saying is mentioned in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in verses 19 and 20. What is the destination of these asuras? Because they have a separatist mentality. There is a creator, there is a creation, there are the laws of nature, but they want to rebel against that. So these are the separatists. There is a government in the country. There are laws of the state, but a separatist wants to not follow the laws and not accept the government. So what happens to a separatist? They are imprisoned and punished. So chapter 16th of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 19, the Lord says, those who are envious and mischievous, basically those who are asuras, those who do not accept the Ishavasya principle, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence into various demoniac species of life. Asurishwa. This is what here also it is saying. Asurya namate loka. Asuram yonim apanna mudha janmani janmani mam aprapya vai kaunteya tato yanti adamam gate. Pretyavigachanti. They keep degrading themselves life after life. So this is the contrast. If we deny God's existence and control and act whimsically, act in a demoniac way, we will be punished for that. So we should remember that we receive this human form after reincarnation or accepting different forms over millions of lives. So this world is compared to an ocean. This is again an analogy from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, where this human body is compared to a boat and the acharya, the guru is compared to the captain of the boat, and the scriptures also. And the favorable breezes, yeah, is compared to human body. The facilities that we have in human body, which help the boat sail smoothly to its destination. So if with all these facilities, we don't fully utilize our life for self-realization, that means we are an Atma Ha. Atma Ha means killer of the soul. Now, of course, the soul cannot literally be killed, but it is saying you are losing the opportunity to connect to Krishna. So the Ishopanishad warns in clear terms that the killer of the soul is destined to enter into the darkest regions of ignorance to suffer perpetually. So we have to be careful of that. If we neglect the laws of nature, the will of the Lord, what is in store for us. So basically, what this attitude is, mantra 3 means if you act whimsically, if you don't take responsibility and don't acknowledge the divine, that means you are being whimsical. What is the effect of whimsical behavior? That is degradation of life. And who are these kinds of asuras? This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita when Sri Krishna says, Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradama. 7.15. That four types of people don't approach me. Mudha, prapadyante naradava, maya aparita jnana, asuram bhavam ashrita. So same, these are the categories of the asuras or the naradamas. Or maya aparita jnana means maya has stolen their intelligence. Or mudha, or basically they are foolish. So even if one, maybe doing the idea is you cannot dismiss the divine and still expect to flourish. That is not going to happen. Even if one is trying to achieve their selfish goals, but they are of this asuric mentality, Mantra 3 says they'll never be successful. You give up the instructions of scriptures, you act according to your own whims and feelings. You can attain neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. Na sukham, na shanti, na param gati. So basically, we have to align with the principles of Ishavasya. And this is exactly the theme of the Bhagavad Gita, that all of us should perform our work in connection to the Lord. And if one does not follow this rule, there is degradation of our consciousness, degradation of our species, and it will just perpetually will keep on getting deeper and deeper into that. So Lord Krishna convinces Arjun that Arjun, don't be whimsical, because the consequences of whimsical behavior are very dangerous. You act according to your dharma of a Kshatriya, but do it with proper consciousness, as we discussed. Mam anusmara yuddhacha. So if you do it in that spirit, there is no problem. So basically, human life has a responsibility, and that responsibility is what? One of self-realization. And if one neglects that responsibility, one is called the killer of the soul. And if you misuse this human form of life, nature sees that you didn't value it, therefore you don't deserve it. So the laws of nature are so stringent. They gave you a privilege and you misused it, you abused it. Now they'll take it away from you. And then you're put into degraded species to work hard in ignorance. So the Asura utilizes this human body and progresses towards self-realization, whereas an Asura only acts whimsically, selfishly, and therefore completely degrades themselves by denying God. This is the meaning of this verse. So Srila Prabhupada says that as humans, higher, we have duties of a higher nature. Yeah. Animals are bothered only about feeding their hungry stomachs. If you as human also end up like that, then what's the difference? The modern soul-killing civilization has only increased the problems of the hungry stomach. Actually, advancement means it should become easier for us to feed ourselves, survive. Yeah, because they're basic problems. As we advance, the humanity advances, those problems should be the first ones to get solved. Our basic needs as humans. But do we see that happening? Because this model is based on greed, the problem of hungry stomachs is only increasing. It is, in fact, becoming more difficult to sustain your livelihood, sustain yourself in this world. Yeah. It has only increased the problems of the hungry stomach. And if we approach somebody and present this idea of self realization, they say, first we need to fill our stomachs, then we will talk of all this spirituality. So they may say that, but the laws of nature are so cruel that they are not taking up to self realization. They are just eager to work hard to fill their stomach, but they are always threatened by unemployment. So Srila Prabhupada predicted it. It's becoming worse with time, in fact. So the idea of human form of life is not to work hard like animals, but to act for self-realization. If we neglect self-realization, then the laws of nature will force us to work hard like animals. That's where the laws of nature will send us, in the regions of asuras. He is forced to transmigrate to the asura planets and take birth in degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness, tamo and avidya. And then Srila Prabhupada says, therefore one should, at any cost, act for the pleasure of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada quotes from the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where this beautiful verse of Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe is presented, that, yeah, even if one begins this path and they are unsuccessful, there is no reason to worry. One is assured of a higher quality of life. Either there will be material comfort and privilege, or there will be a environment of deep spiritual wisdom. Shuchina Srimatam. So, despite having sincerely tried to realize his relationship with God, if one is not able to complete it, they are given a chance to be born in such an environment. And then what happens? Very beautifully, it is mentioned here. Tatra, 43rd verse of the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Tatra tam buddhi samyogam. Their previous spiritual consciousness is revived. Buddhi samyogam. Therefore, we say neha vikramana shasti. There is no loss in spiritual endeavor because it is revived in your next life. Yatate te tato bhuyat samsiddhi kuru nandana. पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियन्ति हि avashopi saha. Avasho. They might, you might not be looking for spirituality, but you end up in spiritual environment. Avasha means automatically. Why? Because your previous consciousness was revived. Purva abhyasena. Yo buddhi samyoga. So that is the system. Any steps taken on the spiritual path guarantee eternal benefit. And it's a progressive march. So Prabhupada is saying one gets a better chance in his next life due to his sincere efforts in this life. So we should not fear that, oh, I'm not so advanced. I don't think I'll be able to, reach up to a platform of acting only for Krishna's pleasure. Start somewhere. And then, as you take steps, Krishna will help you. And whatever remains, you continue in your next journey, in the next life. So if this is what is the situation of somebody who is unsuccessful, who is failing to achieve self realization, if even a fallen candidate is given a chance, to have such a privilege in the next life, one can hardly imagine the status of one who has achieved success. Yeah, simply by attempting to realize God, one is guaranteed a better situation in their next birth. So, what should we do? We should at least make an attempt. But those who do not even make an attempt, they want to be covered by avidya, who are too materialistic, too attached to sense and to material enjoyment. That is asuric mentality. So it is not that we want perfect achievement in spiritual life, we want sincerity. A sincere attempt is more powerful than a life of rebellion or rejection of God. So those who do not even attempt and who are too attached to material sense enjoyment must enter into the darkest regions of hell as confirmed throughout the Vedic literature. So externally, such asuras may be making a show of religion. But why are they doing those religious things is because they want some material prosperity. They're not looking for liberation or pleasure of Krishna as their goal. They are using religion to gain a material benefit. And such people are called Atma Sambhavita, again in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And how do they become great? By popular vote, by their power, yeah, by deception, by cheating. And they become popular only between the ignorant people who have no idea of what are the real attributes of a great person and by using their wealth. Such asuras, devoid of self realization, and knowledge of Ishavasya. What is Ishavasya? The Lord's universal proprietorship. So such asuras devoid of Atmagyan and Ishavasya are certain to enter the darkest region. So as humans, we should not simply solve our economic problems on a tottering platform. Means you're trying to solve, but the situation itself is so fragile. They were trying to solve the same problems 20 years back, 10 years back. We are doing it today and we'll continue solving the same problems 20 years in the future because the platform itself is so shaky. It keeps changing. And then you have to always, again work to overcome the problems of the newer problem, get solutions of the newer problems. So it's not simplistic. It's entangling. But we should solve all the problems of the material life, which is why are we taking a birth? That is the real problem. Uh, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. These are the problems that we should try to solve and find eternal solutions for. So this is the beautiful advice of mantras 2 and 3. Align with Ishavasya and God-centered life, and you will achieve liberation. Act whimsically, selfishly focusing only on your desire, and nature will take away your privilege of human life, and you will have to slide back into the lower species of. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Vishnu Guruji. Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Uh, Guruji, with the help of second verse, we understand the process of karma that ultimately we have to follow. But when we say that, sorry, when I say that I'm coming to this life after a baggage of so many lifetimes, where I was not in right sense or may not be in right consciousness. I have been done a lot of mistakes and all that. So
Hmm.
when I say that whatever struggles that I face in this journey of spiritual realization, so how do I understand that? Is it because of Lord's mercy or because the situations now are favorable to me act in that way? How do I understand that thing?
There are two levels at which this works. One is at the level of karma. If you are, just interested in karma and karma phal, you're acting for, you're driven by fruitive mentality, which includes both karma and vikarma. Either I do karma because karma will get me punya and I might go to swarga, or you do vikarma, which means you reject the prescription and do what you like. So both are indicative of our selfish desire. So the one is that is the platform of karma. There is no intervention by Krishna. The laws of karma will put you in a situation according to your past karma. You will get a body based on your karma, based on your previous karma. So that works just by the laws of karma. What changes is when you start taking steps towards Krishna. Then Krishna gets involved. Otherwise, it's just at the platform of karma. If you take steps towards Krishna, then as we saw, Neha Vikrama Nashastim. Krishna saying, okay, I assure you, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. I'll protect what you have and provide what you lack. So then you engage the divine. There is divine protection. So if you have begun that journey, then in that case, we can say that even if there are certain challenges and unfavorable situations, but they're leading you closer to Krishna, it is a good thing. Yeah. Even if reversals or challenges Where did we discuss this? That as humans, we should not optimize for bodily comfort. Oh, this is a very displeasurable situation. We should optimize for purification. We should optimize for growth. So, yeah, if you have a grateful heart, any opportunity can become an opportunity to come closer to Krishna. That mindset has to change. So, yeah, these are the two levels. One is just karma, another is when we start performing bhakti, then, yeah, Krishna may make things favorable. Krishna says, to those who I am especially kind, I take away everything they have. When Srila Prabhupada first heard this verse, he was aghast. What is this? That does it mean that it is Krishna who took away my family? It is Krishna who, made my business collapse? Harishyatam tavad dhanam shanai. Why? To drag that soul closer to me. So it's a little rough, but it brings you closer to Krishna. And baggage is okay, Prabhu. Krishna never asks for purity. That is Krishna's responsibility to purify. Krishna asks for complete faith and sincerity. Don't think that purification is your job. You cannot. Devi hi eshu gunamai mama maya duratyaya. Nobody has been able to cross over this samsara sagar by their ability. Mam ye eva ye prapadyate maya metam tarantite. Those who surrender to me, I tell Maya, because Maya is my energy, I tell Maya, please let this soul pass. So that's how it works. So don't worry about baggage, Prabhu. What is more powerful is, Krishna's mercy. What is more powerful is Krishna's holy name. So if we are sincere, there is no real obstacle. Our mind only creates these obstacles. Is that okay, Prabhu? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, based on the Ishavasya principle, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the quota is this quota same for all of us as human beings, or does it vary based on our social duties, our responsibilities, and so on and so forth? Or is it, or do we, or fundamentally, is it same for all of us as human
Right.
beings?
Right. That's a very good question, bro. So what is that quota? That quota is the situations you are put into. That means, are you privileged? Are you underprivileged? The duties you have been prescribed. So that is quota. What does quota depend on? It depends on our past karma only. So all of us are in a continuous journey over various lifetimes. How we make choices, yeah, what impressions do we take in? That creates a certain swabhava. So all of us have over time built up a certain swabhava, and that will vary for each of us. Even in a family, there are two siblings, they grow up to be so different. So, what to speak of a soul who has been on such a long journey through various lifetimes? All of us will have very different swabhavas, and we have to find a specific swadharma which will purify that swabhava. So, that is the quota that will differ for each of us. So, that will be subjective. So, the journey from swabhava to swadharma is subjective, it is different. But from Swadharma to Swarupa, that journey is objective. At the level of Swarupa, all of us have the same nature. We are all Satchidanand. We are all Krishna Das. Jivara Swarupa, Krishnera Nityadas. So Krishnera Nityadas and Satchidanand, that is our Swarupa in that it is universal, it is common for all of us. But Swabhava is different, and therefore Swadharma will be different.
How do we address that swabhava to Swadharma journey.
Yeah, so that is bhakti. That primarily we have faith in Krishna and bhakti. That Shraddha Shabde Vishwase Kahe Sudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. I have firm faith that if I do the direct acts of devotional service, all my obligations will be taken care. So I don't even Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sannyasi, Brahmachari, these are bodily designations. These are not soul designations. The soul cannot be Brahmachari. The soul cannot be Kshatriya. So while we perform Varnashram, because we are too attached to karma, we reach a place where we have sufficient faith in bhakti. We say, okay, now I have firm faith in bhakti. From there, you don't need to perform Varnashram dharma. If by performing your Varnashram duties, you have been able to purify your consciousness and develop faith in Krishna and bhakti, then you can give up Varnashram. You can just do the direct activities of bhakti. And that is what is recommended. By doing the direct activities of bhakti only will we attain love. By doing Varnashram, we will not attain love. So dharma to swabhavas, till the time we think we are too attached to matter and karma, perform Varnashram duties by offering it to Krishna. But remember, that is not pure bhakti. That should be clear in your mind. We are doing it because we are not ready for pure bhakti. Pure bhakti is not karma arpana, which this verse is saying. This verse is giving us a beginning step. And okay, start with karma arpana. Very good. You are not selfish. You are acknowledging the creator. You are obeying the creator. This is step one. That should lead you to direct activities. Swanushtita pumsa vishwaksena katha suya na utpadayet yadirati shramevahi kevalam. If our varnashram duties do not lead to an attraction for Krishna katha, all those varnashram duties are a waste of time. Shramevahi kevalam. So varnashram duties should purify us. And when we have accumulated faith in Krishna, we can give up varnashram duties. So that is our individual journey. We should internally want to intensify our spiritual practice. Because Krishna, you know, I'm in a situation where I have to do this, but please, this is where I want to be. Please help me. Is that okay?
Yes, bro.
Yeah, because at the level of Swarupa, now think that you have gained faith in Bhakti and Krishna, okay? You have been purified. You have got Drid Shraddha in Krishna and Bhakti. Now you are at a constitutional level, Swarupa level, soul level. What will you do at soul level? Will you do karma? No, you will do direct bhakti. So at the soul level, we perform the direct activities of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam. That is how we go from Swadharma to Swarup. So don't think that Swadharma is the end. Swadharma is the beginning. Swarupa is the end. So if Guru also doesn't tell you that today you are doing this, but ultimately you have to do, exclusive bhakti. So that principle has to be presented. How ready we are for it, that's our individual job. But we cannot compromise on the principle. That, oh, you are offering your karma to Krishna, very good, very good. No, then you are obstructing the progress of that soul. Ultimately, the responsibility of the Guru is to point towards the activities of pure bhakti, Swarupa, Siddha Bhakti. So, yeah, understand that you are doing it for purification, but know that you really want to do where the soul activities are, where what will lead to Bhava and prema is actually the activities of bhakti. And we should try to do that more and more. And while we do our Varnashram duties, we should still have faith in bhakti activities and not have faith in the Varnashram activity itself. Varnashram I'm doing because it's a social responsibility, but my faith is in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Sevanam. That should be our motto. So we do it without identifying with it, without having faith in it. That is how we, intersect with karma. Okay, anything else?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes,
If
Prabhu.
we follow the Isavasham principle, okay, and if we follow, I think we can live hundreds of years peacefully and we can continue. But if you don't follow, maybe we can glide into the other species of life. It's not mentioned like that. You will just go to the darkest regions of hell, it is saying,
Yeah.
perpetually. I am really, I mean, there is no scope to at least glide into the other species of life or that.
Let's see. The point is that if somebody has an asuric mindset, based on your belief, you will act. Yeah. Belief precedes action. So if your belief is asuric, then your action will be asuric, and the consequences of that asuric action will be degradation. And in that next degraded situation, again, if you act according to that asuric belief, again, the action will degrade you. So it is like a progressive loop, a downward spiral. It is not that they are, it is some sadistic pleasure that Krishna is getting by sending them to lower and lower species. It is their own behavior, their own attitude, which is successively degrading them.
Okay.
So, yeah, if they change that mindset, if that asuric mentality changes, then that journey can be reversed.
Okay.
But,
Kind of
typically,
warning.
a bad habit keeps on becoming worse and worse if it's untreated. So, here, what is the context of these two verses are? Align, and then you will achieve freedom. Reject or rebel, and then you will degrade. But it is not the concept of eternal damnation. The free will of the soul is still there, although it might become very, very constricted. If you misuse your free will so often, that is the situation of those who are addicts. Do they have free will? Definitely they have free will, but they have misused it so much that now they have free will only in name. As soon as they see their trigger, they'll helplessly go to it. That is the situation of these asuri bhava ashrata. It is their own doing, their own bad habits, which is leading them to that. But yes, you are right. Just like you are feeling for these asuras, Parikshit Maharaj was feeling when he heard the description of the hellish planets. He asked Shukdev Goswami, "What do you mean? There is no way out of these situations for these people?" So Shukdev Goswami said, "Yes, there are purificatory activities." So yes, purification process is always there.
No, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. This
Oh,
correction. I am
just
feeling for myself, Prabhu, not for others. Anyhow, thank
You are
you.
on the path of bhakti.
I
You
am
have.
attending your class. Maybe I will get some
I
progression.
don't know about myself, what I can tell about you.
just
You
an
can take
extension,
shelter of Prabhupada. That was the best. Yes, Prabhu.
just an extension to the question that Prabhuji asked. Just maybe I have a gap.
Uh-huh.
When we degrade from one species to other species, uh, then we are just burning our karmas, like so. But it's not a
Hmm.
new karma is not created. So how do we then perpetually degrade further? We don't
Asuri
create new
Bhava,
karma.
correct. Asuri species need not always mean non-humans. Asuri species means, see, asuras, there are different lokas of the asuras. The lower planets, there asuras live, but their existence is tamasic. Their existence is in avidya. That is what is being said.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then thank you everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Upanishad ki jai. Hare Krishna.